The Dark Night of the Soul is a concept and catchphrase that exists within the spiritual community that represents the dark night of the ego, according to Christina Lopes, the heart alchemist, in which one's ego dissolves and becomes more integrated into one's being, ultimately evolving into a more flexible, open ego. What I am talking about today is similar, and that is the dark night of the gamer. I am not saying that this is a process that all gamers go through. Instead, I am sharing with you my own experiences and evolution as a gamer, and where it has brought me to today. I believe that many other people will be able to relate to my thoughts and experiences, which is why I am making this video. We as older gamers have gone through our ups and downs in video games, which is our favorite pastime and passion. When I first got into video gaming as a 6-year-old child, it was exciting, an escape, and a way to bring control into our lives. By control, I mean being able to control an electronic avatar on a television screen to do our bidding. It was empowering and entertaining at the same time. As children, we are inundated with the mantras that we have to do something. We have to eat. We have to go to school. We have to brush our teeth, etc. Most children accept these statements and obey. We don't even think about whether it is true or not. The appeal of video gaming to me was that, like watching television or eating ice cream, that it was something I actually wanted to do. The fact that I could only play video games on weekends also made them more appealing. It's the forbidden fruit effect. The more forbidden, the more desirable. As a child, I didn't have much choice in any of the games I got to play. My father owned a video rental store that also carried NES games. You might think, that's awesome, you could play any game you wanted. Unfortunately, no. I didn't have any choice in the games my father brought home for me to play on my Nintendo Entertainment System. His first priority was to his customers. They got first dibs on the best games, and all I got was the leftovers. This is how I played many of the games that the Angry Video Game Nerd covered on his channel. I remember playing such hidden turds like Back to the Future, Karate Kid, and Castlevania 2. Of course, I occasionally got to play some of the best games on the NES as well, like Mike Tyson's Punch-Out!, The Legend of Zelda, and Super Mario Bros. 3. The thing is, however, I never had one game long enough for me to be able to beat it. Thus, early on in my gaming life, I never had a long enough attention span for slow-moving games that were specifically designed for consoles. I was more attracted to arcade games I could beat in a single setting or weekend. Of course, this changed later on in my life, but it took a lot of conscientious self-training, forcing myself to beat games and staying committed to one game at a time. Even today, I find it hard to stick with the game for very long without feeling like I'm forcing myself to play a game the second it gets tough. As a teenager, I decided to take my gaming destiny into my own hands. I had saved a lot of money from my childhood and decided that I would purchase and play the systems and games that I actually wanted to play, instead of playing whatever was given to me. This is how I got into games like Final Fantasy VII and Zelda Ocarina of Time. At this point, I could, to some extent, control my gaming destiny. The only limiting factor was time. By the time I hit my teens, I got more and more schoolwork. And even if I didn't have much homework as an INFJ/highly sensitive person, I was always worn out from the day. I rebelled against my parents' rule that video games were only for the weekend and played games after school, but it still never seemed like enough time to fully enjoy them. After I got to the college/university level, I had even more time and leftover money from my parents for buying books. I used every cent I could afford to buy games and systems. For me, this was the age of Dreamcast, PlayStation 2, GameCube, and Xbox. I had more time and money than ever between classes, but it still didn't seem like enough. I could only afford to buy games that were the best of the best. After graduating college and when I first got a steady income, at first I did not spend much of it on games. After a while, however, I got sucked into buying games hardcore. It became an addiction. It was fun to see a game I wanted to play, buy it, and play it. However, soon I ran into the dreaded backlog. The word backlog kind of bothers me because it relegates games to a kind of checklist or list of things I have to do, which is not how I want to view games. I view games as entertainment, as entities that enrich your life, not entities that weigh you down. If you keep buying games and not play them to their fullest extent, however, it does start to weigh you down if you keep thinking about all the money you're wasting. I used to combat my backlog by forcing myself to beat every new game I purchased, and playing them for at least an hour per dollar I spent on them. But this got very tiresome quickly. Turning a fun hobby into a chore is not what I envisioned when I first picked up an NES controller decades ago. This year I have bought a lot of games, played them for less than an hour each, and have never touched them again. Why is this? A lot of games today follow the same fundamental design of earlier pioneering games. They may have better graphics and more content, but at the core, these newer games feel the same as the games we have been playing for years. So the excitement isn't there. Because of this, we end up disappointed or not stimulated enough. It feels like we have played this game before, even if it's not a sequel or by the same company. A lot of games follow a formula that experienced gamers are aware of, and it makes games predictable. We do not want to continue this cycle of spending money and being disappointed. So eventually, if we are aware of our emotions, we stop buying games. I will say that though, even a lot of older gamers are not aware of these formulas and core design philosophies, so they end up playing the same kind of game over and over again. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that I personally do not have fun doing the same thing over and over again. That's where I am today. A lot of great games have come out recently, but I haven't felt like spending money to be disappointed. First, playing games takes effort. It takes both physical and mental energy to play games. Sometimes as working adults, we do not have either. We just want to veg out and relax and just watch something on YouTube, Netflix, Amazon Prime, or whatever. I don't even want to actively watch anything. I will just leave something on in the background. Sometimes I just like listening to people talk in the background while I listen with my peripheral sense of hearing. I have developed a distaste for the gaming community of the internet. We are constantly being coerced into spending money by buying new releases of games or gadgets. Doesn't matter if it's a modern gaming channel or a retro gaming channel. Modern gaming channels review or play a lot of different games. And if you don't play at least some of them, you feel left out, so you end up buying things you may not want to. Retro gaming channels always advertise new gadgets and gizmos to play your old games on HD TVs. At some time, it feels kind of redundant and a waste of money and time. I'm not saying I'm that different. The most recent example for me is I bought Yomawari for the Switch just to have a scary game to play for Halloween. Even if you don't buy any of the games that are featured on these channels, the bottom line is that they promote a curiosity to play many different games, and that will be fine in a world without poverty and with equal and unlimited wealth. But that is not the world in which we live today. We should instead appreciate the things, people, and experiences we already have, and reuse them over and over again. I kind of touched on this in my How to Not Be Disappointed by Video Game Purchases video, but it applies here as well. If you are rich and don't need to work, by all means you should buy every game and play them for hundreds of hours each. But if you are not rich and have to work, be more mindful of how you spend your money and time. pursue happiness, satisfaction, and fulfillment, rather than hype, excitement, and temporary feelings of joy. This brings me to the title of my video, The Dark Night of the Gamer. As a child, I was simply mesmerized by video games as an interactive medium of entertainment. As a teenager, I used video games to escape the harsh realities of life as a child, transitioning into an adult. As a fledgling adult, I used video games as one of the many metrics we use to inflate our ego. Whether it was with the sizes of our collections, the number of games we beat, or with the accomplishments we achieved in them. As a spiritually awakening adult, however, I see games for what they are. They are simply tools. I used to think video games were the ultimate form of entertainment, and they were all I needed to live a happy life. I don't think this anymore. Whether it's because developers are not developing new ideas quickly enough, or I am simply tired of the endless loop of excitement, purchase, and disappointment. I am simply content to do nothing. A younger version of myself was always restless. I always needed to be doing something. Whether or not it was constructive to my life was unimportant. Now, however, I find that my ego of needing to prove myself to other gamers is disappearing. I don't care anymore. I just want to be happy. I just want to be at peace. Constantly having tasks in video games, or proving myself to an imaginary audience that is judging me on my gamer skills is exhausting. Especially since we already have things to do in real life. I am grateful for the hours, days, weeks, months, and years of entertainment that video games have provided. But I am ready for the next step in my evolution. My gaming ego has now become integrated into my being. On my business card, I am a part-time private industry educator, trying to be a small YouTuber. In my mind, I am a gamer, but in my heart, I am just a person trying to be happy.
Thank you for joining me on another video. Miss Satoru Iwata, bless your soul. Have a great day.